Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm your host Sanj, and in this video I wanted to show you something quick, easy that you can implement if you've never used AI or end-to-end automations. Okay, and what this workflow does is that it will basically help you generate really viral LinkedIn carousels. Okay, so if you've ever been on LinkedIn, if you've seen posts that do get viral, that have thousands of views, comments, likes, shares, etc., you will notice that most of them tend to have a carousel element to it. Okay, and basically this is just like a video, a bunch of cards, so you can have like 10 cards or 5 cards or whatever, and the user will basically flick through it from left to right like a slideshow, right? And so this automation will actually create the entire process for you. It'll even generate the ideas for you. Okay, so you don't need to plug anything in. You can build this automation, schedule it to post once a day, twice a day. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so this is a very easy automation to get started with. So let's just dive right in. Alrighty, so let me whiz through the quick requirements of this simple setup, and you can make this as big or as small as you want. I'm only going to use LinkedIn for this example, but I'll show you how to basically connect this up to Twitter X, Instagram, TikTok, etc. So for the carousel bot, we just need a couple of things, right? The first thing is we need to sign up to a third-party tool called Autopilot, and you can sign up for like a free account, and I think they give you something like 14 days free trial. I'm actually paying for it because I use it for clients and other projects that I do as well. The second requirement is just start posting, man. You can schedule this and just literally post daily, weekly, 3 times a week. It's really up to you. Okay, so the automation looks like this. Okay, so like I said, it's a very simple automation, something to kind of get your toes wet. If you're not familiar with automations or AI and you've never used end-to-end, this is a great automation for you to build and test it with. Okay, so the first node here is going to be the schedule trigger node, and you can schedule this to whatever schedule you wanted to set it up to. Okay, and I'm not going to go through this one because it's quite easy to it's very self-explanatory. Okay, and obviously we're going to build it out together so you'll see the inputs. But the most important node here is the AI node, and this is the carousel agent. And basically what I'm telling it to do is generate content for me. Okay, and this is for LinkedIn carousels. Then we need to set some IDs, some fields inside of the end-to-end workflow, because there are certain things that we should trigger inside of Autopilot, right? Then we call the API, we create the carousel inside of Autopilot. We got to wait for it because it doesn't create it instantly. Okay, depending on the number of cards that you have in the carousel. So if you're using something like 3, it's going to be generated pretty quickly. But if you're going to be a bit more aggressive and say you have something like 10 or 50 or 20 carousels, then it's going to be a lot longer. Okay, so I've added a wait node just for that, just for the automation to wait, because the next step is not going to work if the Autopilot API call hasn't finished. Okay, which is why we need a wait module, and then it will then finish. Once it's finished, it can download the carousel, at which point I can post it up to LinkedIn. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. So this is one that I posted earlier, and it's not bad, right? I mean, I'm using Flux now, which is a completely free language model. If you wanted to make this better, wanted to make it more glossier, I recommend using something like Flux Pro, which is by far, hands down, the best text-to-image model out there. Okay, certainly the one that I've tested. I believe it's the one that Grok uses as well natively. So you're gonna get the best outputs if you pay for it, but it's not the most affordable. Okay, if you're just getting started, which is why I've chosen to use Flux now. Okay, but there are a few, and I'll show you how you can test these. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's actually created the background. It's created the text here, and if I go through this, it's not bad, right? Like, it's all completely automated. You can also add pages or page 1. You can also add your branding. You can put that in there as well at the bottom. You can put logos on this. There's lots of ways to expand this. Okay, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and build this puppy. Okay, so the first node you need is the schedule trigger node, and because this is social media, you can set this up to whatever works for you. Okay, so typically with something like LinkedIn, I probably do like once a day. I don't think it makes more sense. I think it makes more sense to do it like once a day, maybe twice a day, something like that. I find with something like Twitter, it's more engaging if you post like 2-3 times a day versus something like LinkedIn, which certainly in my experience, I don't check as much as I do with something like Twitter. Okay, so I'll let you configure this however you want. And then the next module is going to be the AI agent. So let me just bring that up, and we're going to use define below, and I'm going to grab the prompt from the original. So let me just go inside the original build, and I'll talk you through this in a sec, but let me just copy this, and let me just go into expression here. So I can pop this window open. So basically the objective is to come up with 50 original LinkedIn carousel post ideas, okay? Because I'm just focusing on LinkedIn for this, but I'll show you how you can post this and optimize this for other social media platforms, okay? The most important thing for me is my niche, my industry, which is unlocking productivity and increasing revenue using no-code AI agents and automation workflows, okay? This is the industry that I work in. This is the type of work that I do with my agency. You can put in whatever you want to do or whatever your industry is in here, okay? Then the tone, keep it casual, straight talking, like you're explaining this to a smart colleague over coffee. So this is important for me because I wanted it to be not too kind of pushy, not too formal. I want it to be informal, okay? Because when you're trying to transfer ideas to people that aren't familiar with these ideas, right? I've always found that it's just easier if you talk about it in a casual kind of environment, right? Like two friends sharing coffee. That's been my experience. So what to focus on? Actually helpful for business folks, because that's the kind of the target audience for me and the people that I'm targeting: startup founders, tech consultants, or ops or automation teams, based on real examples or believable scenarios. Show how people are saving time, cutting costs, or making smarter decisions with AI agents and no-code tools, okay? Then the last bit here is fresh, no recycled angles or reused phrasing, because it's social media. As far as I know, right, most platforms will penalize you if you post duplicate content, right? I think it's a violation of the terms of service. So just double check that. So you don't want to do any of that, which is why I've set it to, post new content, post new captions, new headlines, etc., etc. Come up with 50 solid ideas, randomly pick one, build a 5-slide JSON output based on this idea. Now, if you want to do 10 slides, 20 slides, you would just edit this here. And then the output format, because I have asked it to create something in JSON, this is the code that you would use, okay? So I've got 5 slides, which is why it's numbered 1 to 5. And then for the prompt, it's just one image for the carousel, right? If you do have 20 slides in your carousel, then this would be 1 to 20, okay? Then the notes is output only to JSON, nothing else. Every time this runs, it should generate a new idea. Keep the vibe casual, credible, and business relevant, okay? No motivational quotes, because I think that's been overused. No AI will change everything, because who knows if it will. Just value, right? And then you want to output the required specific output format, okay? And I'll show you why in a sec. So let's just move this over here. So for the chat model, I'm just going to use OpenAI for this, because that's what I always use. And then I tested 4.1 mini. Okay, so it's newer model from obviously 4.0, and it's still affordable because it's the mini version, okay? Then just line this up a bit. You need the output, right? Because I've asked it to specify an output. So we're going to use a structured output parser. And what that means is that because I've asked it to create a JSON style carousel, right? It's going to output 1 to 5 carousels, right? And I'm going to use those for images. So what I needed to do is I needed to parse it so I can use it downstream later in the workflow. So let me just grab the code that I've created for that. And it's quite simple. There's nothing too crazy about this code. Let me just grab this. And you can see it's worked because I've got an output here, okay? I'll explain that in a sec, but let me just paste this here. I show this to you. So basically what this means is that the caption is the headline that I showed you at the start of the video, right, for the carousel. And this is just a placeholder, your unique carousel caption. The AI agent will actually replace that, okay? So don't worry about this if it doesn't match to whatever the output is. It's just a placeholder. There your prompt 1, prompt 2, prompt 3. I've only just put 3 prompts in here. The AI agent is smart enough to understand that I've created 5 cards in my carousel, so it'll need 5 of these objects, okay? In terms of what happens when you run it, so I take the storyboard or the narrative that the AI agent creates, and then what it does is it will then output it. And this is why you need the parser, right? Because you can see here, it's got the caption, it's got the scenes, it's got the prompt, right? And this is for scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, right? And it starts at 0, which is why there's 5. So, and then this is the header. So this is what you'll see at the top of the carousel. So you know it's worked, okay? Because you're on output here. And that's why you need it. That's why you need the output parser, okay? So we've done that. The next thing we need to do is we need to set some fields, and we need a set node because we're going to use Blatato for this, okay? So Blatato has a specific output and it requires a specific input, okay? Which is why we need this JSON, okay? Now I've included all the other social media platforms, although I'm only using LinkedIn, which is why I've got my LinkedIn ID here. I've set this up, so if you want to post this on every platform, you can, and I'll show you how you do that, okay? So let's just grab this code, and we're going to get a set node. So let's just put set. We're gonna JSON it because it is code, and then we're gonna just open this up and then paste this inside of here. Okay, so the first thing is my Potato API, and the next thing is I want my LinkedIn ID. So if you head over to Potato, let me just come out this. This is a video that is created. Let's go to settings. Sign up for a free account. I think they give you 14 days trial. And then what you want to do is you want to go into settings, and then you basically need to connect all these accounts, right? If you're going to use all of them. And this is basically an authentication window that will come up. You just put in your credentials, you authorize it, and then it will basically connect to all of these. So if you look at a previous video on my channel, I actually did create an automation that posts to all of these, okay? But for this example, like I said, I'm only going to use LinkedIn. And then what you want to do is you want to grab the ID. So for this, here's my account ID, right? And then that's what it is here, okay? If you want to use Instagram, what you want to do is go back to Potato and go to, where is it? Yeah, Instagram here, just copy the ID, Instagram, and then you will just paste that in between the quotations here, okay? And then that's your ID. It must come from inside of Potato, okay? And you just fill in all the gaps. The other thing here is we're going to use the template base slides quote cards because that's what is set up inside Potato. The script video title, that'll be obviously whatever your caption is. And then a couple of things here. The caption position, where do you want the caption on the actual image? Do you want it at the top, middle, or bottom? So I've said it, I want it at the top. The style I've said is dystopian, although it doesn't look very dystopian to me. So it needs some work, you know, and some testing with some other language models here. But if you want to know what styles you can test, go over to the help.potato.com, the API reference. This is the endpoint I'm using. And if you go down to, where is it? Where did I see it? Let me just go back up. The style here. So you've got cinematic, apocalyptic, baroque, comic book, cyberpunk, dystopian. Test all these, right? Have a go. Have a look at, you know, you can do kawaii as well if you like that kind of style. You can set all that up here, okay? Dystopian. Now, for the text to image model, I've selected Fluxional because, like I said earlier, it's a free model. You don't need to subscribe to it. You don't need to upload any. You don't need to buy any credits. You know, upload any dollars. It's completely free. Okay. So the way to find more of these is here, text to image model. Okay. So, like I said, Fluxional is what I'm using. If you want to do this professionally, or if you want to sell this as a service to your clients, you definitely want to look at this one here, Flux Pro. Right. It's by far the best. Like of all the text to image models that I've personally used, right? Especially through API, it just does such a great job. But obviously this is going to cost you, but the output and the quality is amazing. Another free one is this one here. So try Recraft version 3, that's free. And I'm not sure about the others, right? I'm not really sure about Diagram. I have seen it, but I've not actually tested it myself. Okay. Then the rest of it, yeah, just fill it in as you see it. Okay, so rename this. Call it set Potato fields, which I think is what I called it in the original. Yes, it is. And then you know it's worked, right? Because it's pulling off the captions from the previous AI agent, which is captions, the caption dynamic field here. So you can see here it's green and it's mapped it. And then for the scenes, it's just the outputs, right? So output scenes. So it's just this one here. Okay, and you know it's worked because it's pulled over the 5 objects. Okay. And everything else is just hard-coded into the node here. So the next thing we want to do now is we have the field, so we can create the carousel. Okay, so now this is going to be a HTTP request module. So what's happened here? Let's go inside of here. It's not manual, right? So let me just copy this again. Doesn't look like it's worked before I move on. So let me go into expression here. Let me just paste that just to make sure it's worked and there's no errors. And remember to test the step and save the automation, okay? So the next thing you want to do is HTTP request. And we're gonna rename this to create carousel, and I'm just gonna get the API from the build. So you can see here that now we're gonna use the post method, okay, and this is the API that we're gonna use. If you're not familiar with API, just go over to the API documentation. It actually tells you, right? So the base URL is this. That means that every API call that you make, the base will always be this, and this is the endpoint. Okay, so for this one, it's gonna be videos/video/creation, right? So the base is always the same, and so every API call that you make will always use this one. But for the specific task, so we're using create a video, which is kind of similar to carousel. It will be when we post it, you'll see it. We want to use this endpoint, okay? So I'm just gonna grab this and paste this here. Remember, it's post. Okay, and then we'll go down here, and then we want to pull off some headers here. So make sure that you toggle this on, and we're gonna need the Blatato API key, and we need the header, which is Blatato-API-key. Okay, so I'm gonna place this here. So let's just do this first. Blatato-API-key, and I'm gonna paste this here. Okay, now to get the API key, you can actually map this field here. You can actually pull this one across if you wanted to do that, right? Because I've actually set it as a field inside of the set Blatatos field node. Okay, so you can copy and paste that. To find the actual API key, if you head over to your Blatato account, go to settings, scroll down to the bottom, just copy the API key here, okay, where it says API access. It's the same code. Okay, and then that should be it. Yeah, so make sure it's set to body content type is set to JSON. We're using specify body JSON. Right, so that's the next part. So let me just kind of jump the gun here. So we're here, and now we need to toggle on send body. Okay, I'm gonna copy this code. I'll explain it to you what that looks like. So let's just head over here. So make sure set header is done, and then what you want to do is set body. The JSON body type is JSON. This is also JSON, and then I'm gonna go to expression, and I'm gonna paste this in here. Okay, so all that means is if I go into the original, you can see it. The JSON template, right? It's all coming off from the previous nodes. Okay, the most important thing for you is the scenes, right? Which is here, and I've used this to JSON string because the scenes are individual, right? So I'm putting them all together. Okay, so that's what all that JSON to JSON string means. Okay, the capture position, we've obviously set it in the previous node. We want it at the top, right? So where did I set it? It's in here somewhere. Here you go. Caption position is set to top. Okay, again, you can change that if you wanted to. The script is script, so that's also another module, another field that's coming from here, which is this one here. Style is also coming from here, so if you go down, you can drag and drop it, which is this one here. So I've set it to dystopian, right? And remember, we've done it this way because it's an automation, right? So if you wanted to change anything, all you have to do is you just have to go inside of this node, which is a set Blatato fields, okay? And then for the text to image, what do we say we wanted? It should be Flux Chanel, and it is, okay? So that's it here. Again, if you want to change that, you can, and you know it's worked because it's all green, okay? And make sure you spell carousel right, carousel. Okay, and then let's just align this up. And then the next module you want is going to be, so now that we've created the carousel, we need to wait. Okay, now typically I've set it to about 5 minutes. That's what it takes. It takes usually, depending on the number of cards that you have in the carousel, obviously, anywhere between like 2 minutes to 5 minutes. Okay, so let's just set a wait module here. So I'm just gonna leave it 5 seconds because this is the build that we're doing together. But remember, just set it accordingly. I think 5 minutes is more than enough, right? If you're doing it once a day, that's absolutely fine. And the reason we need to wait, right, is because the next module is going to be another HTTP request, right, which is a download carousel. But if the image carousel hasn't been completed by Blatato, there's nothing to download. It will just say in the status. If I go in here, this is queuing, right, at the time when I did this, right, which means that there's nothing to download, right? If it's done, it will say status done or finished or whatever it is. Okay, so that's all you need to remember. Okay, so next thing we're gonna do is we need another HTTP request. node, and this time it's going to be a get because we've already created it. And so for this, we just want this URL here. Okay, so I'm going to get this. I'll explain this in a sec. Let me explain it here because it's already running. So basically we need the item ID, okay, which is, I mean, you can pull it from any of these, the create carousel, or you can create, you pull it out from the weight module. It doesn't really matter, right? I think I copied it from here to create. And so basically to download it, right, we have the URL, which is backend.blatato.com v2 videos dash creations, but then we need the ID, which is this one here, because that will tell N8N which video or carousels that you want to download. Okay, and then you want to set the headers again, and it's exactly the same, right? So we're just going to copy this, and then remember to toggle headers on. So I'll do Blatato API key, and then the value is just an API key. Again, remember you can actually pull it across from the set Blatatos field because it is a variable, right? So you can actually drag and drop that if you wanted to. And then we'll call this download carousel. And then the last one is going to be post to LinkedIn. Okay, so we're almost done. Now this is a post method. We're using the endpoint dash posts, and we've just got some headers. Okay, so let me just grab this. I'll add this here. And this is going to be HTTP request. Let's rename this to post to LinkedIn. Rename this here, and then we need the headers. It's here because I don't have it as a mapped field on the build. So we'll do Blatato API key. Remember to spell it correctly. Make sure you spell check it because it's not going to work if there's any mistakes, right? And bear in mind of the capitalization here as well. Okay. And for the send body, we want JSON as a content type, and we want to specify body using JSON. Okay, so we're gonna just grab this because this is telling Blatato what we want to post. Okay, so we want to post it to LinkedIn. We're going to post the captions as you see it in the previous nodes. The image URLs are going to come from the download carousel module, which is this field here. So you just drag and drop that here. And then the account ID comes from the set Blatatos field, right? So I've only set it up for LinkedIn, right? So it's this one here, 1220, and you'll see on the right hand side for the results, if it's worked, it's all green, and you'll see the values match. Okay, and then for the media URLs, it's been created, right? The output. So this is what we're selecting from the previous node because we've downloaded the carousel. Okay, if you wanted to do this for any other platform, you can just duplicate this post to LinkedIn node, copy and paste this, but change this to LinkedIn. Remember to map the correct account ID and change the platform to whatever the platform is called, right? So if you're going to upload this to Instagram, you change it to Instagram, Twitter, and so on. Okay, everything else is the same, captions and the content will stay the same, but you can duplicate this and make it a little bit quicker if you wanted to do that. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go to the build, to send body, and remember to set this to JSON. Let's switch this to expression so you can see it, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so let's just line this up so you can see it. Yeah, this is what the automation looks like. Again, you can add a sticky note, you can do whatever you want with it. And in terms of what we need, yeah, we've signed up to Blatato and it started to post. Okay, so if you like this video, go ahead, implement this. You can definitely sell this as a service to your agency or as a service from your agency, because, you know, creating content, scheduling content takes a lot of work, right? And agencies and companies are actually using like individuals to do this, like a social media manager, right? You can also bypass a lot of the applications like HubSpot and not HubSpot, it's called Hootsuite, and there's a few others that you can schedule. So your cost will come dramatically down as well if you manage it yourself with something like Blatato and N8N. Okay, so if you like this video, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, and I'll see you on the next video that I drop on this channel. Thanks for watching and have a good day.